Jérémie Veg, welcome, Jérémie. He is the founder of SOPHT. He has more than 15 years of experience in IT transformation, and now he is fascinated by the environmental impact of IT modernization and possible levers to reduce it. His vision relies in one question. What if technology was intelligent enough to reduce its own environmental impact? It's a smart question. And so thank you, Jérémie, for being here, and please go ahead.
Amazing. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having me on that session. I think the session of Francesco was the perfect introduction for what I am going to present, and thank you for it, because it was very highlighting and then very good to understand why it's not an easy topic to approach from an environmental perspective and measure perspective. So maybe a bit of context before jumping into SOPHT. And I decided not to use slides. Maybe we'll do a quick jumping into the demo to make it more concrete. But a bit of context behind SOPHT. I spent, yes, my last 15 years in big consulting firms, helping my clients to move to the cloud, to build new applications, to implement new technologies. And in my last years, I had more and more questions about my clients but what's the environmental footprint of your advices, about my application, about that service into the cloud. And the reality is I had no clue and I didn't know how to bring an answer to my clients. So this is back in 2020, so I guess like 4 or 5 years back. That was like really the beginning of those questions. And I started looking for a tech solutions that could actually help me bring answers to my clients. And my observation was there is not one single solution that can actually help RT organizations to better understand the entire footprint of their IT ecosystems. I could not find one. And when I say IT ecosystems, I'm talking about the environmental footprint of their infrastructure, whether they are in the cloud, whether it's on-premise, their assets, the user assets, or the infra assets, the web, the network. So all the different dimensions of an IT organizations, could not find one solution covering it all. So the questions the question that we asked ourselves with one of my founder, Jillian, is to which extent can we bring a solutions to our client, which is tech-driven, but built with a low-tech approach, and that is data-driven. And I guess that's one of the key topic I'd like to share with you today, is that we believe that our clients have all the data needed to perform and go towards a sustainability journey. And the reality is that when you think about an IT organizations, data is all over the place, sitting in many different IT solutions. And it's a lot of energy and a lot of efforts for our clients to retrieve the right data and put in front of that data exactly what Francesco explained, which is the environmental methodology to convert that into environmental data points. So basically the first value proposition of SOPHT, which is, as you understood, a software, was basically to build an entire catalog of APIs, helping our clients to easily retrieve the data that we need from their hyperscalers, whatever they are, from their ITSM solution, from the network, from the web, through our APIs, so that in one single platform, they could retrieve all the data points that they need. So this is what I'll show you in a second in the platform. But again, the main value prop at the beginning of SOPHT was how to leverage data and leverage all the different IT solutions used by the clients to retrieve automatically and from a 360 perspective, all the data that they need. The second value, or the second question that we asked ourselves when we built SOPHT was, measuring is important because that's the starting point of any journey. If you want to perform and do better, measuring is important. But obviously, optimizing and reducing or doing things differently is actually better. That's the target that we should all achieve. When we see all the companies going through their SBTi journey or the pledge towards carbon neutrality, you cannot have this one answer about offsetting. You cannot plant trees and just assume that's the only answer, to reduce your footprint. That's not a sustainable world. You need to better understand where your sources of emissions are, and you need to understand what levers you need to put in front of those emissions to reduce them, right? So tackle the sources of emissions. So for us, the second question was like, how can we guide our clients towards maybe not carbon neutrality, because this is utopia for us, but towards a journey where they can actually reduce their emissions. So you'll see as well in the platform that, yes, we start by automating, industrializing the data from all the different sources that we need. But then we want to take our clients toward this decarbonization journey with all the levers that we've identified, with the right simulators, and ensuring that they can track this all along the journey. So that's in a nutshell, this is what we've built since early, it's been 3 years now. SOPHT is a team of 30 people located in France, both in Paris and Lyon, where the headquarters is. Mainly working with big corporates like BNP Paribas, Vinci, Airbus, like Lux companies of many, big enterprise. And we want to grow and expand. Italy would be a great market, and as we speak, we are actually in right conversation with a big industrial Italian players. Yeah, so if you agree, I would like to show you very quickly what it looks like to make it a little bit more concrete, and take maybe any questions at the end of this. So share screen here. Oh, able to see the screen any moment.
Yeah,
right?
we can see it.
So as I said, it takes the form of a cockpit where the first journey of our users, of our clients, is to understand fully the different areas of emissions, right? So when you land to the platform, you will see obviously this overview of your total emissions and the breakdown coming from the cloud and your on-prem instances, the workplace, the web. Obviously, there are a lot more filters about like, how you split it by BUs, by geographies, etc. I think what I want to show you here is an example, on the cloud, because as I was saying, and again, Francesco mentioned it, there is everything related to scope 2 and scope 3. So everything related to the electricity, but also the manufacturing part of, those impact. When it comes to the cloud providers, whether it's Azure, AWS, GCP, or others, they do not have the same methodology. They all build their own, carbon calculator. But as a client that is actually consuming the 3 cloud providers, there is no way he can compare those, cloud services among themselves. So what we've done is we've built APIs to retrieve precisely the different cloud services. If I show you this, to retrieve the right data. I have the Zoom window here in front of me. Let me take this down. Yeah, exactly. So if I show you this, I want to compare, my cloud providers between AWS, Azure, GCP, etc., with one same methodology. And the methodology that we used is leveraging the state of the art of the literature in today in the market. And again, funny enough, but Francesco mentioned the SCI framework from the Green Software Foundation. That's precisely what we used, to build the environmental footprint of an application. And I'll come back to you in a second. So here, the most important for us was to say, if I want to be as insightful as possible, I don't want just to give you the difference between AWS and Azure. I want to be as operational as possible. So give you also the capacity to understand the footprint of one given service. So here, the impact of Amazon Glacier compared to Amazon SQLDB, et cetera, with a CO2 perspective and a financial perspective to it. So we are not converting euros into CO2. We are really looking at the usage of the cloud services in terms of percentage of CPUs, percentage of RAM, percentage of memory storage, and convert that into environmental data points. And that gives our clients really the capacity to understand, what resources they're using. Here, you can see all the VMs, for instance, running and what percentage of CPU RAM they're using. So again, the whole point of this approach is to give our clients enough granularity, enough insights, so that they understand that most of their resources are only using a little bit of memory, a little bit of CPU, and maybe there is a topic for rationalization and mutualization in terms of architecture. Similarly, in the workplace, those are data that we retrieve from ServiceNow or Intune or other, assets manager solutions, and giving our clients capacity to understand the amortizations of their inventory. And here we leverage data coming from different sources, whether they are from the manufacturers, or even if the client has his own emission factors, we can include them into the platform, because at the end of the day, the most important is to have a good insight and granular data. I'm not going to go through all the screens, but just to finish with this one and then jump into the decarbonize. Here is just the example of the data that we could retrieve through Office 365 through the graph. So, as Francesco mentioned, the impact of the emails, we receive exactly the number of emails sent and received from our clients and the networked impact. So again, there is this methodology to convert that, same with the storage, with OneDrive, Outlook, etc., etc. But the most important is, now that I have access to this data, dynamic and granular, how do I create a motion? How do I create a dynamic to go from one measure that we call the baseline towards a target that I need to achieve? So we calculate the baseline, and I will go quickly through the types. I define the target that usually is fully aligned with a commitment that I had at group level or through my SBTi targets. I then have access to a full library of levers that I can apply to my organization and that are categorized here by family. So all the levers on the cloud device, if I go on the cloud, you will see all the levers on the cloud with the full description of this lever for our clients to understand better what they need to implement and what kind of questions they need to ask themselves. And the reality is that we wanted to go further than only bring a list of levers. We want to help them simulate, right? So because we retrieve live data through the APIs that I mentioned, we help them now do a simulation, say, if I do X or B or Z, what will be the impact of that action? Then if I fully agree that that's the right one, then I implement this simulation as an action, and I implement this action. So SOPHT will not implement the action, will just track the impact of that action and track whether or not it had an impact on my trajectory. So here it was just like to give you a quick overview, about the fact that a tech solution is not magical, is probably not the answer to all the emissions of IT. For sure not. There is a lot of governance topic. There is a lot of let's make sure, as Francesco said, that we ask ourselves the right questions when we build an application about the features, about the architectures, the technology behind it. But you don't know what you don't know. So having a solution like SOPHT helps you better understand the impact of your current IT ecosystems, helps you better understand where you need to focus, and helps you better understand if you do X or Y simulation, what will be the impact. So yes, this is what we wanted to present and telling you that we will be happy to go further if there is any interest.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. At the moment, there are no questions from the public.
May I jump in?
Yep.
I want to thank a lot Francesco and Jeremy for these two last speeches. I learned that, in essence, Francesco, from your 80 kilos of iPhone, we need to send 100 mails along 10 years in order to produce a similar CO2 impact, which is not a lot. In 10 years, we have an impact in the maize, which is equivalent to the construction of this. Interesting. So we can do a lot, also on the small things. And that leads me to a couple of considerations about SOPHT and all what this is all about. The first point I want to make, Jeremy, is that in SOPHT I see the successful attempt of defining numbers on something which is extremely uncertain. We don't know the boundary, the scope, we don't know the parameters sometimes, we don't know the engines, the functions in between the numbers. And maybe we discuss this. I want to share with everyone that Nicola and Pietro, we met Jeremy just a few weeks ago and we were very in love with SOPHT, and we thought to throw you in the Digital Ethics Forum in 2 or 3 weeks ago, correct? And anyway, my point is, everything is very uncertain. However, we are trying to extract numbers. And my point is that in doing so, we actually tend to compare the discussion among stakeholders. The stakeholders involved in a carbon assessment concerning a corporation have different opinions, experiences, and ideally we should keep these different opinions, positions, and so on in our mathematical model. We should carry on the equations with a probabilistic approach, not because we need to protect our ask, say, maybe the outcome is so many kilograms plus minus 10% with a probability of 90%. That is also important, but the key point is that you want to keep the stakeholders engaged, because actually the change in the habits, the change in the awareness, the change in the mindset of the people involved in all this cycle is the real tool for a durable, sustainable outcome. That's my view. And so I think that it's very interesting that we have seen in the first 2 lectures with James and Carmen, 2 tools which are already part of an alternative industry, in essence, alternative to the one that in our corporations are the big techs with their software and hardware, no? Francesco mentioned the Fairphone. Fairphone is 0.5% of the market today. We keep banging on it because we want Fairphone to become 10%, 20%, no? But it's a battle among giants. I will speak about that in 1 hour, my lecture. Anyway, my point, Jeremy, is yes, I appreciate all these things, but we should try to include in our approaches methodologies to keep the stakeholders, uncertainty, discussion, and the human component. Shut up, sorry. Thank you.
No. I'm 100% aligned with your point. You know, I was in Paris for the last 2 days. There was an event called the Green Tech Forum, which is the one of the most important forum that brings all the different digital players, well, not even digital players, all the players that are trying to bring us an answer or a solution to this topic. And I think the one that you mentioned is actually one of the key messages that I shared yesterday during a panel, is a solution is not the solution. I mean, solution like SOPHT is not the solution. The solution will come from the people, because if the mindset is not there, if the people do not understand the impact of an email compared to the impact of building or buying a new iPhone, if that starting point is not there, there will be no change.
People will continue looking for another technical solution, no? Another.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the best answer that we can bring to this is organizations need to make this topic like a concrete topic as part of their own governance. Usually when I talk to my clients, I say, you pilot your transformation, your business transformation around 3 pillars: the pillar of the performance of your service, the pillars of the financial performance and cost, and the pillar of your security. You need to bring a fourth dimension about sustainability and have like a dedicated governance to it. If you don't bring this fourth dimension, you're completely missing the resilience of your business in the coming years. And the governance is at all levels of the organizations. So I fully agree with you. Plus, one last point about uncertainty. I think we need to be all very humble about this new topic, because it's a new science. It's a new literature that is continuously improving. So not giving to your clients the transparency about the uncertainty of the data points that we collect is completely missing out something. So I think I fully align with your point.
My experience comes from the environmental impact assessment from the LCA that Francesco mentioned 40, 30 years ago. We were in the complete dark. And indeed, thank you very much, Jeremy and Francesco. Nicola, up to you.
Sorry, there's a question from the public for Jeremy, sorry. And from Paolo that asks, how about the scope and the resources available to be collected? I mean, I use the Azure Carbon tool, but it's focusing on virtual machines. What about cloud data platforms or AI solutions?
Yeah, that's a good question, and thank you for it. We are in close contact with hyperscalers, because part of the solution will come from them. Well, part of the problem comes from those guys, and part of the solution will come from those players as well. So we need to better understand, how they're basically, giving back the data into their calculator. We've published in France a paper comparing the three methodologies between AWS, GCP, and Azure. So it's there, and I'll be happy to share it through a group that is called Boavista in France that you may have heard of. So we did that paper comparing the methodologies, and unfortunately, it's lacking a lot of information that we need, especially on the LCA part, because they're only taking part of the life cycle that for them it's important. They're not using location-based, but they're using market-based, meaning that they include, their investments to make the electricity greener or infrastructure greener. So not easy to leverage data coming from hyperscalers. Now, this being said, the most important, Paolo, to start your journey is understanding the use case that you want to address. And if the use case that you want to address and you want to measure is clear, then the second topic is, where is the most relevant data available? What data, is used at your level to pilot this metric? And then will come the question about like the methodology, the environmental methodology. And here, two options. Either the literature is mature enough so that you can convert an activity data, whether it's like the use of a GPU, the use of a CPU, the use of energy, and the methodology is here and convert it, or it's not there. And there are amazing consulting firms, and maybe Francesco is part of that as well, to help you build a specific LCA for that use case.
Thank you, Jeremy. There are no questions at the moment, so thank you very much for your presentation.